You are listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case.
We will be sitting down with the industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Leigh Ann Newman. Leigh Ann works as a Senior Program Manager of Proposal Operations for Public Consulting Group Incorporation in the Human Services Practice area, where she's bringing industry best practices to the art of proposal development for the entire PCG Human Services team. This includes company-wide quarterly trainings, reporting on proposal submission activities, and providing support to all human services staff in proposal development. Leigh Ann is practitioner level certified by APMP and has a master's degree in business administration from Clark University, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Communications English from the University of Idaho. She is the past marketing director for the Pacific Northwest chapter of APMP, serving on the board of directors from 2015 to 2020, where she supported new member engagement and chapter level outreach via multiple social media accounts and through website management. She is also a newly elected member of the APMP International's Board of Directors for the 2021-22 term. She recently wrote an article for winning the business title, Making a Fashion Statement during proposal reviews. Leigh Ann is from Cavendish, Idaho, where she helps her husband and their 19-year-old son run their 600-acre wheat and barley farm and raise registered Morgan houses. That's the part I want to talk more about to you, Leigh Ann. Welcome to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Leigh Ann. Let's go from the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your high school and education.
Sure. I was born in Lewiston, Idaho, and lived there most of my life until I got married and moved about an hour away. I went to high school at Lewiston High School, which was a wonderful opportunity. And I had about 350, 400 students in our class. And I was actually on the journalism staff there. So I enjoyed my high school very much.
Wow, you very early on realized you have the skills in writing?
Yes, I enjoyed writing my whole life, and journalism was just one way to do that. So I had a great teacher and learned a lot, was an editor at the time. Things have changed a lot since then. We did everything typefaced on a special machine and had to paste it with glue onto the paper. They do it all electronically now.
Yes, that's great. Do you remember any interesting editorials or anything that you did when you were at the school, high school?
You know, there was so many things, but yes, there was one article I got to interview. He was a past student, I believe, of the high school that went on to dance on Broadway. And I remember getting to do that interview over the phone with him. And I was really impressed with, his ability to go for his goals. And it was very memorable.
Did you get some dance tips from him?
I tried. He was a little higher level than I was, so he was definitely into ballet.
Got you. That's nice. So after a interest in journalism, you went on to do your Bachelor of Science in English and Comms. Yeah, that should be a fairly straightforward choice, is it?
It was. I didn't have a lot of wavering when I went to college. I knew I wanted to be in some kind of communication. At the time, I was somewhat interested in, the speech part of it, but University of Idaho didn't have a specific degree, so to speak, in speech. And so I went more general with general communication, but it did allow me to do a lot of writing. So it was a pretty easy choice.
Got you. So how was the comms English at University of Idaho? Was it a 2-year, 3-year course?
The whole degree was 4 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, lots of classes, lots of reading and poetry, and the English went nicely with that as well. So I got to read a lot of classics, and I love to read. So that was wonderful too.
Perfect. And what was your very first job? Maybe during university days or before university days or after university? What's your very first job?
Well, my very first job, I was a dance teacher actually for tap and jazz dance for children that were grade school aged. So I did that the early part of high school and about till I graduated and went off to college.
Got you. So you did pick up the dance tips then.
I tried.
That's good. And you even experimented with some kids as well, which is good. Very good. So from then on, what was the first official professional job that you took?
So when I was getting ready to graduate, I had applied for a position with a company in the town that I was originally from, and it was Social Security Disability Consulting. So the name of the firm was FM Blake and Associates, and it was started by a man who had been a Social Security administrator, and he decided he wanted to create this firm that would help individuals file for disability benefits. And he was focused primarily on business, so like state and government contracts. So we had contracts with governments all over the country to help their foster children file for disability benefits, and people receiving public assistance also file.
Got you. So how long were you there in that role?
You know, I worked for FM Blake from 1993 until about 1998. And then I took another position for several years doing some work with, there's a large paper mill in the town that I grew up in, and they needed some administrative assistance and also some communication work. And so I went there for about 3 years, but I ended up going back to FM Blake in, let's see, about 3 years later. So about 2002, I think.
5 years are there, and where did you move to next? Was it still in Idaho or?
I have stayed, I've lived my pretty much my whole life in the state of Idaho. However, the position that I had with FM Blake the first time required a lot of travel. So I traveled all over the United States doing case reviews for the applications we were filing. So I got to see a lot of the country, which was wonderful.
Nice. What's special about Idaho?
Well, one of the things that's wonderful, of course, is that we have all four seasons and they're pretty distinct. But I'd say the scenery, most of all, northern Idaho is pretty mountainous, and there's lots of trees, you know, where I live. And of course, where I live now, I'm about an hour away from where I originally grew up and where I was working, because we're in a small farming community. So there's lots of rolling hills and wheat fields, and it's very beautiful.
Yes, I can visualize how great it will be. Well, one day I'll visit you and Idaho. Yeah,
Yes, that
sounds
would be
good.
wonderful. Yeah.
Nice, nice. From then on, what was next? Let's talk us through your career timeline as and to your current role at PCG.
Sure. So it was an interesting transition. FM Blake was a pretty small company, had about 25 employees, and but we were bidding quite a bit of work that was bumping up against Public Consulting Group. They were a competitor of ours, and they decided to purchase FM Blake. So I was part of an acquisition in 2008. And it was a wonderful experience, actually. I know you don't always hear that, but they were really great to the employees. All employees were kept during the transition and stayed on for well over a year. And we learned so much from PCG because it's a much bigger company. And so it was just this wonderful opportunity to grow and get involved in larger projects. And at the time, I was still doing Social Security disability consulting primarily, but I was overseeing their proposal work. But through the course of several years, and officially in 2015, I transitioned into a senior program manager position for PCG, where I took over the proposal operations for their human service practice area. So it was a natural transition. I got to learn about, you know, the ways of doing business with PCG, but also continue to do proposal work. So, and I'm still in that position today.
Got you. Did you enter the proposal world at PCG, or did you got exposure to proposals in FM Blake itself?
So it was more at FM Blake at first. I was hired as a project manager for FM Blake. So I was traveling around doing the actual physical file reviews to get the medical records that we needed to file the applications. But at the time, it was a very small company, so everybody had multiple roles to do. And so I did a lot of proposal work because obviously I like to write. So I was involved in proposals from the very beginning, but it really became my primary role after PCG purchased FM Blake. I think my natural ability to do that just became more and more apparent, and there were so many more to do with PCG that I just took it on full time.
Got you. Either in PCG or in FM Blake, do you have any memorable proposals?
You know, there's always a lot. The proposal work, as people know, can be quite exciting and a certain amount dramatic at times. But there is one that stands out probably the most for me. It was right before I transitioned into the full-time manager position. But we were applying for a job that we were the incumbent for, and it turned out that we initially got a notice that we had lost the rebid, and upon review of that, it appeared there had been some errors in the scoring. So we filed an appeal, and actually the appeal was successful, and they overturned the decision and reissued the request for proposal. So we rebid and we actually won. And that doesn't happen very often. And so when we got the notification that we had won the second time, it was quite a celebration.
I can imagine. So how was it bidding for the same project twice?
Nerve-wracking, but you know, having that second chance doesn't happen very often, and so we could really put the emphasis we wanted on the appropriate parts and sort of reorganize and rethink our approach. And it was a good experience. A lot of work, a lot of late nights, but in the end, it came out successful.
At what point did you come across the APMP as the professional body?
So when I took the new position in 2015, I actually was doing some on-the-job training with a coworker who lived in Sacramento, California. So I flew there to meet with her, and her name was Stephanie Spears, and she was a member of APMP and spoke very highly of it. And I had not heard of it before. So I did some investigating and signed up right away. And it's a small world because I had lost touch with Stephanie. She left PCG, and it wasn't until this last year that I realized she was an existing board member on the international board, and I got to reconnect with her through that. So it really is a small world, but I immediately knew I wanted to be a part of APMP when I started investigating it.
Got you. And you spent considerable amount of time at your local chapter. Would you like to share 2015 onwards your tenure at Northwest Pacific chapter?
Sure. So the Pacific Northwest chapter is a relatively small one. We're spread out across the Pacific Northwest states, so Idaho, Washington, some of Oregon, and some of Alaska, and a bit into Canada. And we have about 180 members. And so I started, once I got a part of APMP, I knew I wanted to go through the certification process. So I did my foundation certification within that first year. And then probably, 6 months after that, I started my practitioner and got that immediately after, and then decided, maybe the next logical step was to get involved with some of the administration with the chapter. So I had seen an email come out that they were looking for some board members to apply. So I did, and had an interview and attended a few meetings, and turned out that I was a good fit for their communication chairman. So as you can tell, there's a theme here going on. And I was actually co-chair with another lady, Meg Whitehouse, and she's currently still on the board. But we did the newsletter primarily together. And then I changed positions about a year ago and took on a new one that we had started, the marketing manager, and did that for about a year. And it was more related to the website and the social media channels and member outreach. So I enjoyed both very much. We got to meet multiple times in person. It's a wonderful group of people that run that chapter. And we were really on target to do some great things when the pandemic hit. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do in the next year.
Nice. From your time at your local chapter, was there any interesting memories or any contributions that you would like to share?
So one of the things that I took probably the most joy from is we started a section of the newsletter called Ask Orca. The orca whale is our mascot, I guess. And it's sort of like a Dear Abby section. And so we would ask our members if they had questions. And then I actually got to write a lot of the responses for that. So most people don't know that I'm the voice behind Ask Orca, but that was really enjoyable for me. And then, we got to some of the face-to-face meetings, and meeting a lot of the new members was really something I enjoyed. We'd get together and have appetizers and learn more about each other, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Now we know the voice behind the mascot.
The Ask Orca, yeah.
Correct. So do you have, what was your very first BitCon that you attended?
My very first, my very first what?
Very first APMP Bit Conference.
Oh, so that's another interesting tidbit about me. I have not ever been to face-to-face BidCon. It's an interesting, I wanted to go to the very first one I knew about was in Boston, and that's where PCG is. The main office, the headquarters is located, but I wasn't able to because of a conflict in other business that I had to do. So I wasn't able to go to that one. And then I missed San Diego for the same reason. So there hasn't been a lot that I had the opportunity. And then of course I was actually signed up to go to Nashville, and then everything got canceled. So I attended the online, the entire virtual event this past year. So that actually was my first bid and proposal con.
Nice. So the 5 years with the local chapter, and now you are starting as a new international board of directors 2021-22. What are you looking forward in this next 1 year, Leigh Ann?
I'm really excited about learning more of how the international board is able to contribute to the health and welfare of the entire organization. We've had just a couple of introductory meetings so far, and I'm very impressed with the thoughtfulness and the quality of the people that are on the board. And I just think it's going to be a wonderful learning experience for all of us to work together collaboratively. So I'm really excited to get started and learn more. I know that they have a strategic plan, and we're interested in just working together. So I can't wait to get started.
Totally. Wish you all the best of luck on that. I'm sure you'll be a star with Christine Meckenbergal and the rest of the team.
Thank
great.
You.
So the article, making a fashion statement during proposal review. Are you into fashion as well, Leigh Ann?
Am I into fashion? Well, I mean, most women love fashion. I do. I like to sometimes take a different approach to the training that I do. So that comes out of the training that I put on for PCG a certain amount. I have a lot of new proposal professionals that I come in contact with, and many of them have never heard of color team reviews or what that means. And so by making a little bit of a joke about it being a fashion statement, sometimes it helps that stick in their brains. So that's where that title came from, but it's mostly focused on the importance of proposal reviews and being very focused on your purpose as you're doing them.
Totally. I will go and read that article. And I'm sure listeners, please do go and read those articles as well and let us know about the feedback. I'm sure it's great. So, just to get a teaser to get into Ashley's Nutters round and the further questions, tell us 3 things not many people know about you.
Well, I don't think I have mentioned that I am an identical twin. So that is one, which I thoroughly enjoy. I did mention earlier that I love to tap dance, which most people don't know. And probably associated with that, I was a cheerleader in junior high, which I don't think most people in my professional world know that as well. um, so I think those probably three things are enough at this point.
Yes, I'm sure Ashley will find more about you on this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your life career and about APMP, Leon. Ashley will take forward to the second half of the conversation. Thank you.
Wow. So you have achieved so much and you're doing so much with APMP. We're going to switch directions and dig a little bit more into kind of the personal side of you. We mentioned earlier about breeding Morgan horses. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what that entails?
Absolutely. So it's actually mostly because of my husband. We've been married since 1999, and he was breeding horses when I met him. So he started in 1982, and Morgans are the very first American breed of horse. So they helped build this country. They were started from a single stallion. His name was Figure, but he became known by the name of Justin Morgan's or Morgan Horse because Justin Morgan was his owner. And so they are a wonderful breed of horses. They're a saddle size horse. They're not a draft horse. Some people think that they're draft because they see them pulling carts and stuff a lot, but they are very versatile. So they can do anything. They're known for their style. They're very pretty. They're pretty heads, lots of mane and tail, and they walk and trot with a lot of pizzazz. So when you see one, you usually know it.
What an interesting thing to do. Is that a time-consuming thing, or does your husband mostly take on those responsibilities?
So it's definitely a family affair for us. It can be time consuming, but we have right now currently we have 13 head of horses. We've been up to about 20, 25 at our highest. And so we're a small farm. I know it sounds like a lot for some people, but there are people that breed hundreds, a year. But we primarily do it for our own pleasure. But also we sell a few foals a year. So we're expecting 3 this coming spring. So a horse's gestation is actually just under a year. So you have to really invest your time to get what you want. It's not something that happens quickly. But we ride our horses for pleasure trail riding, and we do some cattle work with them. They're very good with cattle. But my husband used to show them in large shows. So he has our old stallion was a national champion in reining and cutting, cow cutting. So he's been doing it a long time, but we love it very much. It's one of our life's passions.
Yeah, it sounds like something amazing to kind of keep you sane during this kind of COVID lockdown and the pandemic. It gives you kind of some purpose and some pleasure.
Yes, for sure.
So I understand you also have a Little Red Retro. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, I wish I could have a picture up for everyone to see. It's so much fun. So we've always loved to camp, and where we live, there's numerous, forests and campgrounds all over. But we fell in love with the idea of these little retro campers. And you hear the term glamping and that kind of thing, and it's sort of along those lines. But rather than trying to restore one that was from the 50s, we went out and bought one that was built in 2018, but it has a retro look. So it's red and white, and it's only 15 feet long, and we can pull it with our little Ford Ranger pickup. You don't have to have a big pickup to pull it. And we just love to take it everywhere. So we've only had it a year, and we can't wait for the spring to come and take it back out.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. It sounds like it's super fun, and you've already gone to a few interesting places with it. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, we took a little bit of a tour through Montana and went to a little ghost town, and it was really interesting. And then there were some sapphire mines, and that was one of my favorite. I'm kind of a rock hound at heart, and so we were able to do some mining for our own sapphires, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Yes.
And then also, I understand you like to read and write, which I'm sure has helped you get through the pandemic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have always loved to read and write. Probably one of my favorite books right now that I just finished was actually written by one of my coworkers' fathers.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, PCG had started this speaker series for us on a monthly basis, and it's been wonderful. And this gentleman, Colonel Edward Sykes, wrote a book, and he was a lifelong career man in the Air Force, and he was also a Vietnam veteran. And so he decided about 10 years ago to search for one of his fallen comrades that had been shot down in Vietnam and try to recover his remains. So the story is about that sort of trek of his that took almost 9 years, I think. So, and then the
Wow.
outcome of it. And it's a great book. It's very heartfelt and funny, and he's definitely writing from a personal place. And so we got to hear him speak about the book after I read it, and that was really wonderful.
Oh, gosh, yes. It's always great to hear from the author themselves after you have a chance to read the book, and we don't get that very often. So when we do, it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to get into our more random nutters round. So don't think too hard about these answers. Quick, rapid fire, no right or wrong. If you don't have an answer, we can skip and move on.
Okay.
All right. So what trait do you like the most about yourself?
That I'm honest.
Such a great one. What is one childhood fear that you've not told anyone yet?
Childhood fear. You know, when I was little, I was afraid of cats.
Are you still afraid of cats?
No, they aren't quite as ferocious looking as when I was little.
They're much bigger when you're smaller, I guess, right?
That's right. That's right.
If you could become invisible for a day, what would you do?
That's a good one. What would I do? Um, you know, I might go somewhere where I could people watch without being noticed. I think that's fascinating sometimes. And I think you can almost do that without becoming completely invisible if you're quiet. But I think that would be fun.
Absolutely. If you could make a rule for a day and everyone had to follow it, what would that rule be?
That we could not use our phones. Everybody had to put their phones away and live a life without that. I remember what it was like before, but I know there's a lot of the younger generation that don't. So I think that would be a good rule.
Absolutely. We do not unplug often enough.
Yeah.
What's the one food you could never bring yourself to eat?
I have a very hard time eating veal.
Mm.
I know it's delicious, but I just can't get over where it comes from.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. What movie or book character are you most similar to?
Well, I relate closely to the character Claire in the Outlander series. I don't know if I'm much like her, but I'd like to be. And I love the idea of time travel.
Yeah, very cool. So we finish this interview and you step outside of where you are and you find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What would you do with that money?
You know, I think there's a couple of things. I'd like to make sure that my family is taken care of, that my parents are comfortable in their retirement. But I'd also like to find ways of investing it into the future of our youth. I think that there's a lot of philanthropic organizations that obviously could benefit from that, but particularly our young farmers, being from a farming community, and my husband and my son now is wanting to take on that lifestyle. So maybe there would be some sort of endowment or something I could set up that would help young people that are wanting to get into the agricultural business.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. If you could change one thing about how our human body has evolved, what would it be?
I wish that our metabolisms were better. I think they used to be. And part of that is probably our activity level. But if evolving, we could have evolved into faster instead of slower, that would be great.
I agree. I wish I had a better metabolism so I could eat even more food.
Yeah.
If you could take 5 things to a deserted island, what would you take?
Oh gosh, 5 things. Well, I would think I would want to take like a bucket, just because you never know if you're going to need a bucket. I don't know. I guess the sky's the limit. So maybe an unlimited amount of clean water. A library full of books, because if I'm going to be deserted, I would hope I would have something to read. I would take my husband because I don't want to be lonely. I'm sure he would appreciate being on a deserted island. And then I don't know, the 5th thing. I wouldn't take electronics because I don't think they would work anyway. Yeah, maybe just those 4 things.
Oh, very nice and very practical choices, and great to have your husband alongside with you.
Yes.
So are you a morning or a night person?
Definitely a morning person. Yeah, I have trouble staying awake past about 9 o'clock on my couch.
Which pop music group would you rate as a perfect 10?
Pop music group. Well, they're not current, but I absolutely love the Drifters. I don't know if you know who they are, but there's a lot of meaning behind their songs, and my family's always loved them, and so I think that they're perfect.
That's great. So what 80s song do you sing only when you're alone, and what memory does it bring back?
You know, that's a great question. The only thing I can think of, and I don't know if I can remember the name of it, and it sounds terrible, but is it called Pour Some Sugar on Me?
Oh,
it's so funny because I was in a sorority in college, and that was one of the songs that they would play when the ladies wanted to rush out on the balconies, and it was a sunny spring day, and they'd all sing the song together. And it's definitely from the 80s.
Oh my gosh, what a fun memory.
A happy song.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So did you have a big sorority house then?
We did. I was a part of the Pi Beta Phi sorority.
Oh, wow.
There was about, oh gosh, in the house, 60 plus women lived in the house together, but we had a membership of a little over 80 active members, and of course, hundreds of alumni. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can just picture all of you ladies running out onto the balconies and singing Pour Some Sugar on Me. I love it.
Yeah, it was a great time.
What would the world be like if it was filled with male and female copies of you?
Well, there's already one, since I'm an identical twin.
Right.
So that would be interesting. I think, well, for one thing, it might be kind of boring, because I think we need diversity and uniqueness. But if there was people like me everywhere, I think we would probably have people that were interested in true communication. You know, I think it's kind of cliche to say I studied communication, but I've always been interested in that ability to connect with others. And so I think we do that most successfully through our personal interactions and communicating, which includes listening. So hopefully we'd have good communicators.
Oh, it sounds like we definitely would. So what's the most amazing true story you've heard?
Well, my father-in-law was a World War II veteran, and he was also a prisoner of war. And he came back from that and was a successful farmer. And of course, my husband is a result of that. So that was an amazing story. He was shot down. He was a belly gunner in the belly turret of a bomber, and they had
Wow.
to parachute out and were then taken prisoners. So it was quite
Oh
the
my
story.
gosh. Yeah, wow. Um, Amazing. If you could meet anyone from history, who would you meet and why?
Hmm. You know, there's lots of figures. With the history with the Morgan horse, there's a lot of individuals from the Vermont area. That's where the horse was started. So I think maybe Justin Morgan, who was the first
Hmm.
owner, I would like to meet him. That's just from a personal standpoint because there's so many stories and so many unknowns about the little details. That would be
Mhm.
interesting. That would be interesting to me.
Yeah, and just kind of find those details out, and yeah, that would be really cool and so close to you.
Yeah.
Um, One more of kind of the random questions. Have you and your twin ever switched places or been tricksters in that way?
So we get asked that a lot. Not intentionally, no. I think probably because we were confused so much of the time. Probably spent a little bit more of our emphasis on trying to be different.
Mm.
We look a lot alike, and not so much now as we did then, of course. But people were confused constantly, so we didn't have to try very hard. To confuse people. So, but no, she's one of my best friends, and I love having a twin.
Yeah, it's amazing. Did she stay in Idaho as well? Is she close by?
She is. She's about an hour from me, and she's been in the same job that she got when we graduated from college. We were in the same sorority together, and we're at the
Oh my
University of Idaho
gosh.
together. So
Yeah.
we've been close our whole lives. But she's an accountant profession, and I'm
Mm.
in writing, and that way we're very different, which is interesting to me because in a lot of ways we're very similar.
Yeah, so different sides of the brain that you use on a regular basis for sure.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. So it's really been amazing to hear about kind of your career and, some of the personal side of you a little bit as well. Looking back, who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's so many people. I think if I started from current day and went backwards, my husband and my son are incredibly influential to me today.
Mm.
They are just, the reason why I do a lot of what I do. My husband's my best friend, and our son is very inspiring. From the time they're little, you want the best for your children. But now he's 19, almost 20, and his zest for life keeps me excited about things. So they're very influential. And of course, my family, I'm very close to my mom and my dad. And I have three sisters, so my identical twin and two younger sisters, and they're all my best friends. And so I think keeping up that closeness is something that has always sort of helped me guide where I wanted my career to go. I never wanted to be far away from those that I love, but I wanted to be able to experience a lot. So this career has helped me do that. But from a professional standpoint, the first person that influenced me the most was Fred Blake, the CEO of FM Blake. He gave me an opportunity out of college to do something that was exciting and new and out of my comfort zone with travel. And then when he sold the company and I was able to move over to such a much larger arena, that was wonderful. And that just kept going. My manager at the time, Patrick Coakley, really set me up for success and helped me learn what I needed to learn to get into the position I'm in today. And then there's actually two women at PCG that my direct manager, Jill Reynolds, and our practice area director, Kathy Fallon. Jill's the associate practice area director, and then Kathy's the director, are wonderful. And in a world where we need role models and female role models, they have been that for me, and are true friends and leaders. And I I couldn't say enough about them and the company. And I think it's just been wonderful for me to be able to have those relationships with them. So they've been very influential as well.
Oh, wow. You have some amazing people in your life. And it sounds like, you're very lucky in that way.
Yes,
Uh,
very.
so what have you observed lately that reminded you that people are good?
So I have several grandchildren. I think we're at 5 right now, going to have 6 in April, I think. They keep coming. So, but one of my grandsons loves to play the Pokemon card game. And it's funny because during the pandemic, he has decided that he likes to play with me, and we play over Zoom. And I did not know anything about the game. So, but his joy in that activity and just the connection, even though we can't be together, it teaches me that there's still, great things out there happening and wonderful experiences that our young people are having. And we just have to be creative and accept that things may not always be the same. But I like that experience very much.
Oh my goodness, that's so sweet. I can just picture you over Zoom with your grandson. Do you have now a favorite Pokemon character?
That's also a great question. Well, he has several favorites. I can hardly say their names, let alone have a favorite. But he's constantly correcting me, and he's so patient with me. I just absolutely love it because he knows everything they can do and all their powers, and I'm trying to remember how many I'm supposed to have in my hand. But I do like a lot of the characters. I'm amazed that they come up with as many new ones as they have. So I don't have one favorite.
That's so sweet. So who is the kindest person that you know?
The kindest person, I think, actually is my mom. She's very, very kind, very selfless, and I think she gets that from her. Her mom was the same way. So I always hope that I can be that accepting and kind of others. So she's definitely a role model for me.
Oh, that's lovely. What is one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
I wish I had known that there was so much stress with proposals. um, However, that it's manageable. I mean, I think over time I have figured out a system for me that allows it to, while it is stressful and can be deadline driven, it's also enjoyable and having that challenge as long as you learn how to manage that challenge. So I think if I had known earlier, that might have made some of my earlier days a little bit easier.
Absolutely. What is the best piece of advice you've received and who gave it to you?
So when I very first started for Fred, like he had told me that he had witnessed some of the things I had had to do as a project manager and a proposal manager, and he said, you have a iron fist and a velvet glove, and he said, don't ever lose that. And so the piece of advice is, to go ahead and be firm and know what you want and what you need, but always think of people as people and with kindness, and make sure that when you're asking for things, you're doing it in a kind way.
Wow, that's such great advice. So you've achieved so much. You're a member of the APMP International Board, and you've been with your company for quite a while and done so much in the proposal realm. We're curious, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, short-term future is where I'm always looking for that next big proposal win to be on. But I think that being on the board is going to be a huge influence in my personal and professional life. It's going to open up the international world of proposal development for me, which I've always been fascinated by. I was able to take a trip to London back in 2011 with PCG, and the whole world of proposal development is well, similar, very different in other countries. And so I'd like to investigate that a certain amount. And then, of course, always in the back of my mind, I would love to write the great next American novel. So we'll see.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I will be on the lookout for that. And if you do write it, let me know and I will read it for sure.
All right, I will.
So, Leigh Ann, is there any part of your life and career that we haven't touched upon today that you had hoped to share with our listeners?
I don't think so. I mean, this has been very enlightening for me too, to actually be able to kind of take a walk down memory lane and remember some of those first days. But no, you guys have done a great job. I think we've touched on most of the highlights.
My goodness. Well, thank you so much. It really has been a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a privilege. We wish you all the good health and happiness. Please do continue to inspire your bid and proposal colleagues and everyone else around you, your grandchildren included. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Leigh Ann. Maybe next article should be the Pokemon version of proposals or something, Leigh Ann.
Great article title. I'm going to write that down.
Write it down. And I'm sure my kids are already ready. They're listening carefully. The moment you said Pokemon, I can see my youngest just turning and looking at me like, oh, we have another friend.
We'll have to have another play session.
Exactly. You will be super popular, from your dance days of what you created. Little community, you have a Pokemon community.
Yeah, we could have tap dancing Pokemon.
Exactly. That's great, Leigh Ann. Thank you for this, and take good care and Happy New Year. And we will see you very soon.
Thank you. You too.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.